Hello and welcome to this mini online workshop on families, small groups, issues, and inclusion. My name is Bill Milford and I'll be talking you through a discussion about how families up at Northfield represent small groups, some of the common issues that come up in small groups, and a few strategies about how to work with the idea of inclusion, how to make or help people to feel included in a small group. The first thing I want to talk about is that families, these intergenerational small groups that we have up at Northfield, we give them the rather romantic name of families, but what they really are is a collection of individuals in a small group, an intergenerational collection of folks in a small group, which make them sort of unique because we don't always run into that except in places in our life like our family. But families represent a lot of different things to a lot of different folks. You know, some folks may have rather happy memories of their family, and some folks may not so much have happy memories of their families, but overall it's mostly probably a mixed bag of the two. What we want to take a look at is the idea that whenever we get a group together, and this dashingly handsome guy here is Irwin Yalom, who wrote the Bible of group psychotherapy. And one of the things that Yalom talked about is that whenever we get a family together, it is a recapitulation of our family unit, that we base things and compare them to our original small group experience, which was our family. So we might tend to take a look at people's roles in the small group as reminding us of people in our family. And one of the things that you can do is help to correct those roles, like some of these particularly distrusting of older people, you can try to work on those issues. But the bottom line is that these families that we have are much like small groups and deal with small group issues that have been studied ad nauseum, really, over the years, especially since the 1950s. And there are universal truths that we know about small groups that have been explored in group theory, such as the process that they generally go through. That is, groups, whenever you get folks together, the first thing they want to do is form around what they have in common. Then they try to establish norms on how they want to proceed together, ways they're going to behave. And then they'll often have conflict that test out whether those norms are reasonable and whether they're going to be adhered to. Then they get into a performance part of the group where they get pretty productive in doing what they're meant to do, and then they adjourn. And you can see this over the lifespan of a group during the amount of time together that it'll often go through that kind of phase. So you can look for your storm phase at Northfield usually to be around Tuesday or Wednesday, and that's when people are, number one, extra tired from being up for a while, and then things just start to happen in terms of conflict occurring. And there are also typical things that people look for in groups where they're trying to test out what is going on, whether there's how things are being operated. If there's a hierarchy, is there somebody in charge, or does everybody just do what they want, or is everybody all working together? And oftentimes groups are mixes of the three. And there are universal questions that people tend to ask as they get into a group. Number one, who's in charge? Who's the boss here? And you'll be given that ascribed power often as the facilitator within the group. The next would be, how are decisions going to be made? That is the facilitator going to tell me what goes on here, or do I have a voice in what goes on? And what I think is the number one most important one is, am I included? Am I really important to this group? Does it make a difference that I'm here? And I tend to think that that's sort of a universal question that we all have in life. Do we make a difference in this world? Oh, there's one other one, and that's where the bathrooms. You'll find out about 30 minutes into your group, so you might want to get that information clarified for folks right away too. So let's talk about this concept of inclusion and how do I fit in a little bit. First of all, we can't make someone feel included or loved or happy. If someone comes into your families with that attitude that they're in a tough spot. That's just where they're at, and there's not so much that we can do to make them feel one way or the other. What we can do is provide some opportunities for people to feel connected to one another, and that may help to move them out of that space. So while we can facilitate a connection, we can't make somebody go ahead and take that connection with somebody else. But if we want to help facilitate the connection, there's a couple of things that we can do to help provide the opportunity for that to happen. First is to watch and listen for the opportunities where people reveal themselves. And that is when people are giving stories that aren't just so much fluff, but things that start to reveal things about who they are and things that are about their relationships. And you can notice as the importance of these stories by watching the person who's talking and by watching the people who are listening. If you can notice a change in affect, a change in how they're breathing and how they're presenting themselves, then you'll know that you've come upon something that might be significant. So once you've heard that that is happening, and you can encourage this by asking questions that will help people to reveal themselves, then you can help the connection to occur by being a role model of how you listen and connect with someone's story. And again, you can't make someone feel and make other people listen, but you can be the role model and do that yourself, and then people may want to emulate you. Number one, you can appreciate their sharing and thank them that you understood that that was a significant thing that they said. You can repeat back to them part of what they said, which lets them know that somebody actually did hear them and was paying attention to what the content of their story, and then try to connect it. Draw that thread from what they said to something that's real for you in your life. If you can, try to avoid the comparison of, oh, I know how you feel, which means that you're saying, well, I know what your experience is, because we really never know what other people's experience is. But when we phrase it in such a way that what you've said has helped me to understand or remember something about that happened in my life, then what we've done is create two separate sharings that have been connected by a thread. Both are authentic to each other person, and both make assumptions that your experience wasn't the same as the other person's, but there's a thread that draws them together. Another thing is to believe in small movement. While sometimes we love the entertainment and intensity of catharsis or of the big cry or the huge insight, and God knows TV is all based around that right now with these big moments of confrontation and conflict that happen in a lot of reality shows. That's generally not how people grow and move through the world. We do have our moments where we sort of pop and lots of things sort of make sense. But more often than not, the way we learn, love, and grow is slow, in little incremental steps, little baby steps that move forward. So if you can believe that those little steps of connection that people make within the family's group are ones that are so helpful towards them making more and more threads to one another and more threads of connection, then what you see is that you're actually building community in the long run, the ability for people to converse, connect, and support one another. And that is indeed a tremendous and powerful thing to do. So our summary here, our families are just small groups, intergenerational small groups, and they have predictable issues. And one of the most important predictable issues is inclusion. And the way that you can help folks with their inclusion process is to help them to connect to one another and to you. That connection comes through a sharing of the self with validation of others by listening. And reciprocal sharing, that is, folks giving back and forth. And when you believe in the accumulated power of these small sharing moments, what you know is that you're building the strong, rugged threads that weave the rug of community together. So thank you very much, and look forward to talking with you further about issues around group facilitation.